Okay, welcome back. Video number 4. This one's going to be about organizations, trusts, and group activities, opening up bank accounts, all the good stuff. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is we talked about in Title 8. I'm having a little bit of a hard time not using my numpad, so I'm going to start manually switching these camera angles back and forth. Otherwise, it's just going to be constantly a battle for me. I've tried to keep my mind focused on it, and I just can't seem to do it. So we're going to go back to 8 U.S.C. 1101, subsection A28, the term organization. We looked at this before. It's part of the definition of the word person from Title 8. The term person means an individual or an organization, and then we go down to organization, and we have this cool word. Now, keep in mind, I mean, even if you and I were just working out at the gym or something like that, it would still be classified under this definition. This definition literally covers everything. Any group of 2 or more people doing literally anything would be under this Title 8 organization. And you say to yourself, oh, well, do you have a Title 8 organization because you go to the government and get it, or do you have a Title 8 organization because it fits the definition of a Title 8 organization? And the answer is it fits the definition. If you and I are doing anything together at all, it would be under this definition. We have a Title 8 organization, whether we want to or not, really, if you think about it. So, and I don't really have a problem with that necessarily either, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you. So anyone can, you just have a Title 8 organization. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it Batman and Robin organization. I mean, you can call it Great Roofing Experts organization. You can call it whatever you want. It'd be a Title 8 organization, and this is for an EIN number. This is so you can open up a bank account. As long as you have a passport, which I'll go into later, you can get your EIN number, you can get bank accounts opened, and then you can get credit card processing. You can get everything you want. All you need is a passport to do literally anything. So I'll show you how to do get an EIN number for a Title 8 organization. This is unincorporated, by the way. Remember, Title 8 organization means but is not limited to an organization, corporation, company, partnership, association, trust, foundation, or fund, and includes a group of persons, whether or not incorporated, permanently or temporarily associated together with joint action on any subject or subjects. It literally means everything, anything. So you can make a Title 8 organization out of anything. You can also even put your name in here and just have that be the Title 8 organization, which is pretty cool because if you ever get any checks or anything in your name, you would deposit it into the Title 8 organization account, not a personal account. A personal account is just a government employee account. There's no such thing as a personal account. You want to stay away from personal and business accounts at all costs, okay? It's not good. That's how they get into your account so easily. It's because you have a personal or a business account. Personal just means Ensley, just District of Columbia, and business just means Ensley, just District of Columbia. A trust account, it could be foreign or domestic. So that makes a big difference out of it, right? So, but we're going to get into all that in a moment. So for now, we'll just do a Title 8 organization. Okay, so it's going to be in care of Brandon Joe Williams, agent, comma, and then what is your position or title in relationship to this, whatever. I'm the agent on behalf of this Title 8 organization, which is a person from Title 8, right? This is the naturalization address where we'd like to naturalize this thing to. It's going to be 123 Purple Monkey Lane, and that's going to be in Pickle Taria, the nation of the Amnesty Coalition. And the mailing address is going to be P.O. Box 1962, because this is where they're going to send mail to. Glendale, California, 91209. Country where county and state where principal business is located. Pickletaria. Oh, I'd put not a business, and then I would put Pickletaria, the nation of the Amnesty Coalition. Right. Name of responsible party is going to be Brandon Joe Williams. agent. I don't have a social security number, an ITIN, or an EIN, so it would be foreign would be the answer to this. What kind of entity is this? Because we're going to skip these. Is it organized in the United States? No. Is it an LLC? No. Doesn't have anything to do with anything, right? So type of entity, it's going to be other. It's going to be 8 USC 1101 subsection A 28 organization. Okay. If a corporation, blah, 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 we don't need to do that. It's not a corporation. Reason for applying is going to be banking purposes. It's going to be to open a bank account. And date business started or acquired, we're going to put not a business. And then I put line, and then I put the date, 8/15/24. Okay. Highest number of employees, we're going to go to 26 USC 7701, and we're going to go to Cornell, and we're going to type in employee. What's the definition of an employee, right? It's very, very complicated. If you start going down the rabbit hole of what an employee is, it's just somebody who works for the government, essentially. So there's no employees, right? There's no employees here, and there never will be. So for this purpose, we're going to put 0, 0, 0. Okay, and then check one box that describes the principal activity of your business. Other, I'd put not a business, and then I would put non-profit spiritual work, maybe, I don't know, whatever, right? Indicate principal line of merchandise sold, specific construction work done, products produced, or services provided. You could put non-profit consulting. I mean, whatever. It doesn't really matter what you put here, I don't think, too much. Has it ever received an EIN, applied for and received an EIN? No. And then if someone else is going to do this for you, you're going to fill out this designee, like a third party. Like if I was filling this out on your behalf, I would put my info here and my info here, but I wouldn't put my address would be 123 Purple Monkey Lane. But for you, you're not going to have a designee, right? So you're not going to fill out this one, this one, this one, or this one, right? You're just going to fill out this one. Brandon Joe Williams, agent, right? Phone number. And yeah, see, I'm using the numpad. I didn't even think of it, and I switched it out so it doesn't do that anymore. So we shouldn't have that problem anymore with the cameras. And then the way you're going to sign this one is without prejudice. Right? It protects, it's a legal term that protects negotiations between parties from being used against them in court, right? It's used in written and oral communications to encourage dialogue and settlement out of court. The principle allows parties to negotiate without acknowledging fault or giving up rights or claims. So it's basically, for example, without prejudice, correspondence can be used to prove the existence of a contract or that a deal was entered into nefariously, right? So it's basically the same thing as saying all rights reserved. I reserve all of my rights, such as due process, such as all the good stuff that everybody wants all the time, right? So you're going to sign anything that's a contract, anything that could be considered a contract, etc. You're going to sign here without prejudice. You're going to sign it, which means you can write without prejudice in here. Let me see if I can find an example. Give me just 1 second here. I think I have. I'm going to pause the video. Yeah, so here's an example of what I did without prejudice by BY : Williams, Brandon Joe organization founder, right? And then the date. So let me pause the video again one more time. So here we are moving back into this document. If we were to do it that way, we could also change, because I did that. It doesn't really matter. Again, I am just showing you guys some examples, but if you want to make your name, I used to use hyphens and colons and stuff in the name, but that typically just gets people too irritated. I'm trying to stay away from all of that as much as possible, but if you're trying to differentiate this name from this name, you can do Williams, Brandon Joe. Williams, Brandon Joe. You can do it either way, right? You can do it however you want. I'm just giving you examples. I'm not showing you guys. You guys really need to understand. I'm not showing you how to do this, and if you don't do it my way, you're a dead man. Everyone out there telling you that is trying to sell you something. I'm not trying to sell you anything. In fact, I probably wouldn't take your money if you practically forced it down my throat, or your currency, whatever. So you could do it this way. You could do it just with your name. You could do it however you want, right? That's how I did it on my other one. Sometimes I do it this way. Sometimes I do it the other way. I switch it up all the time because I'm always trying to figure out what's the best way to do it, which one's going to be more effective, which one causes less issues, etc., etc. Okay? So with that said, I'm going to move into... Now, real quick, I don't want to come back to this later in the video. So if you... Let's say this was a trust. It would be Brandon Joe Williams Trust, or whatever the trust name is. It would be trustee. You could have, or grantor, right? It could be grantor or trustee, right? Or you would just do this one and then comma trustee, right? Whoever's the one, this one here is whoever's the one who is basically filling out this form. And then the responsible party, that's the one who's actually going to be dealing with the trust. So if we pull up, let me go ahead and pause the video again and pull up my trust I wanted to show with you guys. So if you go to the amnestycoalition.org and you go to resources and documents and you scroll all the way down to this brand new section that I just made yesterday. This one here, I just made this yesterday. You can see here that I created a trust indenture. This is the one that I've been using for a while. It's gone through like a million different editions. This is I call it 1.0 on the website, but it's totally not 1.0. It's like 70.9. But we'll go ahead and call it 1.0 for now, right? So here on the first page, we have the name of the trust, Cool as a Cucumber Ministry Trust. And then we have the trustees, right? Joe Johnson and Bob Bobson, right? And then I'm the grantor, so made by the grantor, right? Or settler. There's a bunch of different terms. It all means the same thing. Grantor is the one who brings the trust into existence. So whoever writes the trust is the grantor. Whoever runs the trust along what is written is the trustees, right? So really, in its most simple form, and I put it right here, in its most simple form, the trust is a contract, right? It's a contract that covers how the assets in the trust, which is called the res of the trust, will be administered by the trustees in order to benefit the beneficiaries, right? So, for example, I have a bunch of gold coins and I want them to be, polished and taken care of and used only for specific purposes or something like that. Or I have the rights to a book, and I'm going to put those rights to that book, the patent or the trademark or the rights to the book, I'm going to put that in a trust, and then the trustee is going to help me build up the financial aspect of selling that or contracting out those rights, and then the beneficiaries are going to benefit from that. And the res of the trust would be the rights to the book. So the res of a trust could be anything. It could be cars. It could be the rights to something. It could be patents. It could be financial documents or instruments. It could be businesses. It could be anything, right? It's some kind of asset, right? The asset is run by the trustee in accordance with how the grantor has written the trust. So the trustee has to follow my rules as the grantor. And that's it. Grantor writes the rules. Trustee does the work. Beneficiary benefits. Trustee is compensated for his or her time for doing so. Very simple. It's just a contract. That's all it is. You and I could write. I'll move the camera back. I'm gonna do this manually now. You and I could write a trust about this little pickle with a little Santa hat and how it's going to be used or sold, or we're going to use this in these various TV shows, and then the beneficiaries are going to be allowed to have 1% of the total assets of the trust every month paid to them, so they can live off that, but they can only spend the money on things like education or whatever, or the trustee is going to be the person who's going to determine if it has to, any money or anything that's dispersed to any beneficiary has to be within these guidelines, and then the beneficiary has to request money from the trustee, and then the trustee has to look over and see if it fits the guidelines of the trust, and blah 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 blah. So the grantor is like the god of the trust, and then the trustee operates all of that according to the rules that the grantor has set aside for that, right? So if we were to take this information here, let's say Joe Johnson is going to be the main guy on this. We would do, if we go back to this one here, it would be cool as a cucumber ministry trust. It would be myself would be the what's called executor, which is the same thing as saying grantor, right? And here's the street address of the trust. Here's the mailing address of the trust. The trust is a person outside of itself, right? Because if you look in the trust document itself, it redefines the word person to not include legal fictions. So within the trust, it would not be considered a person, but outside of the trust, when it's interacting with other bodies of law, it would be considered a person. So that's kind of an interesting aspect of the way that I wrote my trust, right? Same thing, not a business, Pickletaria. Name of responsible party. This one we would change to Joe Johnson would be the, Joe Johnson trustee, because he's the one for there's two types of trust. There's revocable and irrevocable. Revocable means that the grantor can shut it down later. Irrevocable means that the grantor can never shut it down. Irrevocable is always the best choice. That way there's no issues in the future with the grantor for any reason. Once the grantor brings the trust into existence, he or she has nothing to do with the trust ever again and cannot do anything with it or tear it apart or anything. It's just an added protection to do irrevocable, right? So after myself as the executor in an irrevocable trust, create the trust, and I release that trust to Joe Johnson and Bob Bobson, from that point forward, I have nothing to do with it, and there's nothing I can do with it. That's it. I go from having all the power to having no power whatsoever, right? Joe Johnson and Bob Bobson have all the power. And if you want to put both our names on this SS4, I'm sure that wouldn't be a problem. But for right now, we'll just leave Joe Johnson as the main guy. Joe Johnson doesn't have a SSN, ITIN, or EIN, so it's going to be foreign. This one would be, I would probably do trust, and then I would do foreign. And if you have any problems with that, I've had some problems with that, and then sometimes I don't. You would just need to deal with that kind of as you go. It's not a corporation, so we wouldn't fill out 9B. Banking purposes to open a bank account. Not a business, same thing, 815-24-000. Not a business. Nonprofit spiritual work is fine. Nonprofit consulting is fine. And then all this would be exactly the same. So those are the only things that we would change. If I had trouble with this one, then I would do, you could do other nonprofit organization. And then you could do foreign, foreign. I don't know. I've had a couple issues with that. So, sometimes I'll just resend the goddamn thing again. They'll say no, and I'll literally just resend it, and then they'll approve it. So I don't know what to tell you about that. I don't really even think they know much about this. It's just kind of a hit or miss. So if you have problems with that one, then okay, And keep in mind, just to get off the subject a little bit on this, I was going to go over this later. Let me see if I have it here. The W7, getting an ITIN with the W7 form, right? So if you don't have an SSN, for example, if you wanted to get an ITIN for get W7 form, I don't know a lot about this. You're going to need to go into this more, but an ITIN is specifically for these various things, like a non-resident alien trying to claim treaty benefits. So that would fit the definition of what we're trying to do with the Title 8 organization and all that. They say name of individual, which is kind of confusing because you could put individual would also fit the ens legis, so I don't know why it's written this way. You could still put the organization name here and stuff. I don't know if they'd have a problem with that, but you could still fill out something like this and see what happens. But this is only under certain circumstances, and they require you to like send proof and stuff. I don't know exactly how well this would go down, but I just found this the other day, and I thought that was kind of interesting to share. You can look into that more if you want. But the simplicity of this is going to be foreign. And if they keep hitting you for wanting the TIN of the grantor, you put foreign, you put does not have one, you put NA, I don't know. You just keep going at it until they approve it, because I don't know what else that's what I do, And I had a guy today put a couple comments on that you can actually just call in and get an EIN without having to send this whole thing, right? This SS4 form. I send them in. It takes a while to get them back, but if you want to call them, from what I've heard, it's not that bad. And if they ask you for a social, just say I don't have one. Foreign. I've never had one. Foreign, right? And because the SSN it's not applied to you. It's applied to the ens legis. You actually don't have an SSN. So when they say, what is your SSN, you don't have one. You even the word your is a bit tricky too, because your could imply like something that you have control over, right? Because having something, the idea of having something just means basically being in control of it, really, if you think about it, or having exclusive control of it, because none of us, everything we quote unquote have, it's all temporary. We don't really permanently have anything, because when we pass away, it moves on to the next temporary possessor of that thing, right? But I wanted to show you this real quick. Let me show you this 304. So when you send in the SS4, which is this one here for the EIN number for your trust or your Title 8 organization, you're going to send it to if you have no legal residence, principal office, or principal agency in any state or the District of Columbia, you can fax it here within the United States, and then you can fax it here outside of the United States. This is what I use. I use this one here. Because I have no legal residence, principal office, or principal agency in any state or in the District of Columbia, and I'm outside of the U.S. So I would use this number here. This is how I've been getting EINs forever. I use this number. If you fax them and they don't send you anything in a week or two, I used to call them and stuff, and it never went anywhere. Just resend it. So all I do is I send it using my Ring Central fax line. I send it, and then I wait a week, and then I send it again, and then I wait a week, and then I send it again, and then I wait a week, and I send it again, and I just have a note on my phone to just resend it every single week until they send it back to me. And that's how I get EINs for my all my stuff. I've gotten 15, 20, 25 EINs, I think. I don't know. Maybe more or less. I don't know. But this is how I do it. And if you want to call in, I'm sure you can call in. I know there's been a lot of people who have had success with that. That's always an option. If you want something faster and easier, probably calling in is probably faster and easier. I like having everything written down. I like having a record. You can also mail it in. It looks like this is the mailing address right here. Internal Revenue Service, attention, EIN International Operation, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45999 would be where you would physically mail it in. Ideally, probably certified mail, make them sign for it. Maybe not the you could send it just tracking. Signing for it maybe wouldn't even be required. It's not really that important. So just to cover that, right? And just to cover a little bit more about the operations of a trust, right? So like I said in my 1.0 course, everything in life is a trust action, right? So every single moment of the day, like for example, even in this course that I'm doing with you, I'm the trustee and you're the beneficiary, right? So I'm also sort of the grantor in a way, because I'm I guess another way you could look at it, if you wanted to look at it a little differently, is I'm the grantor here. I'm the one bringing this course into existence, and then YouTube or Rumble and Facebook and stuff are sort of going to be like the trustees, because they're going to be the one delivering this created content to you, and then you're the beneficiary. You could look at it that way. You could look at it as I'm the grantor and then kind of the trustee, I guess, but like, I don't know. It's something to think about, but every moment of the day, it's always interesting to think like, am I creating this and bringing it into existence? I would be the grantor or the executor. Am I operating within the confines of someone else's creation? That would be, and am I the one actually doing the work? That would be the trustee. And then, or am I the one benefiting from this? All three positions are fantastic. There's not, I know there's a lot of talks and stuff, and especially in my first course about how, you want to be the beneficiary, blah, blah, blah. No, I mean, I love being trustee and I love being the executor. It all depends. It all depends, again, on the contract, which is based off of value and consideration and what you consider consideration, right? I enjoy making all of this content for you guys, and I enjoy giving it away for free, and I enjoy all the love and all the karma and all the appreciation and admiration and all the naked photos. I love letters, naked photos. I love it all. So for me, I enjoy being an executor, grantor. I enjoy being a trustee, and I enjoy being a beneficiary. I enjoy all of it. So there's not really, it's all relative in terms of what's good and what's bad and what you consider to be consideration, etc. Right? So let's get into this particular trust a little bit more, and I'll show you kind of the structure of it. Right? So the first page just has who's making it and the name of it and the trustees and the address, and then we have a definition section, which I'm not going to get into too much. Lots of really good definitions. These are all handwritten by me, unless you see direct quotes from Black's Law or whatever. But most of these are handwritten by me and have been rewritten over and over and over again, like a million times. So they're pretty interesting. They probably will go through additional changes as we move into the future. So, but it's pretty interesting. You'll definitely find these definitions very, very fascinating and fun. And these operate within the contract. So this is a faith-based entity established under the common law right of contract. The grantor is me. Trustees are Joe Johnson and Bob Bobson, right? We have the declaration of authority. We have the name and situs, which means location of the trust, right? This trust as a person, quote unquote, right? Because if you go up to the word person in my definitions, we have here person, human being, and individual. These words are defined as a nothingness which produces a somethingness, the seat of creativity. This is not the brain nor the body, but is a potential consciousness that has no space, no wavelength, no mass, and no location. This essence contains the decisions and definitions associated with interaction, identity, ethics, morals, and integrity. That's the definition of person, human being, and individual, right? So this trust, as per the definition coming from within the trust, it wouldn't be considered a person. So that's why I put it in parentheses, right? But outside of the internal operations of the trust, such as when working together with the United States, the USC, it would be considered a person in relationship to other nations. So it gets a little bit interesting because now you have international law. You have the law of the trust and the nation of the Amnesty Coalition coming up against and needing to interface with a body of law like the United States, where they have a different definition of the word, and you guys have to come to an agreement as to how those words will be used and defined within their courts, right? So this trust as a person has experienced birth in the nation of the Amnesty Coalition and may be moved anywhere in the world using the process of naturalization described in 8 U.S.C. 1101 subsection A23, and then we have that definition here in red. This trust upon its birth does not operate under Title 8 of the United States Code or any other statutory body of law, but wants to be sure to reference any material that is an excellent description of the powers of this trust. Any statutory aspects of this indenture only ease the interfacing with other bodies of law, and no usage of laws in this indenture establish that this trust is operating under the laws of any other nation. This document is the birth certificate of the trust. Naturalization or change in location may occur by the trustees at any time and as much and as often as they please. The definition of naturalization is currently, and as far as this trust indenture is concerned, will always be defined as the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. Private trust domicile address at birth as a quote-unquote person, even though it's not. That's just for external use. This is going to be the domicile address for this person. And then we have the mailing address, right? So we have the naturalization address, and then we have the mailing address. Where is it located through naturalization, and then where do you want to receive mail for this thing? Okay, that's why you always see that everywhere on everything. You'll see that on the right. And then here we go. We have it's 21 years, and then we have what it can and can't do, trustee resignation if the trustee leaves. So this is the contract. Okay, so the grantor is writing how this thing is going to go down and how it's going to be organized, right? If someone dies, what happens? If anything else gets added to it, what's going to happen? There's going to be minutes of the trust. You can remove all this stuff, or you can change all this stuff, or you can put different things in here. You can do whatever you want. Duties of the trustees, financial accounting. So this is, the trustee has to follow all of these rules. So this is basically what the trust is it's basically just the laws of the trust. The trust is its own nation, right? As long as it's a piece. And all it is just the rules of the nation. How are things going to work? How are records going to be kept, or how are services going to be contracted, or et cetera, right? And this can be way more simple than this. This is actually just a modified template that I found one day. So you can, trust is irrevocable, trust is a separate entity, right? And I put here, normally the term used to describe this in foreign nations such as the United States is by the word person, but that term is not available to be used within this indenture, and the proper term would be ens legis, right? Beneficiary is control of trust, operation and continuity, liability. So you have all this different pieces of information as to how the trust will be operated. And again, you can change this however you want. This is as the grantor, you can change this however you want, right? And we have all the stuff, which this may change a bit depending on whatever. And then at the end here, we have the grantor creator autograph. We have the trustee number 1 autograph and trustee number 2 autograph, and then you would notarize this or have 2 witnesses watch you sign it. And then, so the trust is officially opened and it's officially active once the grantor signs it, right? And then, but there's no one really at the wheel. So it's sort of like you would put that same date the grantor signs it would be here on the executed on date. And then the trustee number 1 and trustee number 2 would notarize this, and then once they notarize it, then it's like fully activated, but it would be technically activated and technically alive or birthed or had birth once the grantor or creator had signed it. It's like having a child. Once the grantor or creator puts his autograph on this, at that point the child has been born. And then until the trustees sign it, it's kind of like a derelict child or an abandoned child. And then once the trustee number 1 and trustee number 2 sign it, now they've taken responsibility for this child, and now we're off to the races. Okay. And it's very, very simple. The people are always asking all the time because we've all been brainwashed endlessly. Where do I file this? And how do I file it? And do I go to the county recorder? And do I do this? And do I do that? You don't do any of those things. In fact, no one ever needs to see the trust indenture ever for all of time. If the trust indenture is around, if you have this thing for 21 years, you never ever need to show a single person ever the trust indenture. Not once. Ever. Ever. Not even courts can force you to show it because they don't have jurisdiction in a foreign country. So the thing is that you never ever need to show anyone this trust indenture ever for all of your existence, right? No one needs to know what's in here and what the contract is. That's why it's called private. Private means non-governmental. If it's not governmental, then why would the government, which is a private for-profit corporation located in the District of Columbia, why would they have anything to do with it? They don't. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm not even going to have that conversation. It's not even a conversation for them to have. So what you use to contract with people in a way that allows you to contract without having to worry about showing people the indenture. You can show people the indenture. I'm not telling people you can't. I'm not telling people that you have to or you should or you can't. You can do literally whatever you want. If you want to put the trust indenture in the public recorder and file it into the public recorder and make a public record, go for it. I'm just telling you don't have to. And if you don't want to and you want it to be truly private and you want all the information in there to be private, and by the way, if you notice in the trust indenture, the beneficiaries are never even mentioned because the beneficiaries are private. They're not even in the indenture at all. Even if you do show the indenture, that information is privatized. So you have two layers of privacy when it comes to the beneficiaries, right? So the beneficiaries are literally just whoever you say they are. That's the simple fact. That's why people freak out about trustees and beneficiaries and what do I do and how do I do this and where do I file? You don't need to file anything. You don't need to do anything. You don't even need a notary. If there's two witnesses and they both sign, you have a notarized. And another thing you can do, which it freaks people out, especially now in the courts and stuff like that, but you can use a thumbprint on your document. It doesn't need to be red or green or any of these colors. I don't think any of that matters. But if you think about it, what is the purpose of a notary, right? What is the purpose of a notary? Yeah. So I'm surprised they even have anything close to the right definition because typically most of them have no clue what they're doing, right? So all they do is they are public officials that act as impartial witnesses to the signing of important documents. So they do two things, right? This is why you don't want your wife or your cousin or your brother to be your notary. You should use a third party. Ideally one that's kind of not in your family and like not too close to you and like not someone that you employ or not anyone where there would be any type of anything that would make them partial, right? Anything you can do to stay away from that is ideal. So a notary is a public official who acts as an impartial witness to the signing of important documents. They do two things. They verify you are who you say you are by some sort of identification method. And then they physically watch you sign the document. That's it. That's all a notary does. And when notaries try to operate outside of that, they're basically at that point practicing law without a license and giving you legal advice and doing all sorts of crazy shit because they don't have the protections of a private individual free speech. Free speech, you can say anything you want. You can give all the advice you want. A public official does not have the right of free speech, right? When they're operating in a public capacity. They're actually operating on behalf of the District of Columbia. So at that point, if they were to try to give you legal advice operating on behalf of a public official, that would be a big no-no. They can't do that, right? So there's a lot of confusion with this whole legal advice thing, right? If you're not operating as in the public, if you're not operating as a public official, anything you say that could be considered legal advice would be classified under free speech, the First Amendment. If you're operating as a public official and you're operating in a professional capacity, you don't have the right of free speech. So if you do give people legal advice, then you could get in trouble for practicing law without a license, right? And nobody seems to understand those two differences. Even the bar cards, everybody, even the courts are yelling at me for this kind of stuff and practicing law without a license, and that's ridiculous. I'm not operating in a public capacity, so that wouldn't apply at all. And we're going to get into that a little later, I have a lot of that information on my Williams & Williams website, right? But you're going to get the notarization done on this, and then you're going to use this called a certification of trust. So certification or certificate, right? That just means evidence that something exists someplace else. Same thing when you look at like a certificate of title. We're going to get into that later when we get into cars. Certificate of title means evidence that a title exists someplace else, which I know is very shocking and probably going to piss you off, but here we are. So if I were to reread this in normal English, it's just document evidencing that a trust exists someplace else. The name of that trust, which exists someplace else, is called Cool as a Cucumber Ministry Trust. It's got the names of the trustees, name of the trust. This is the trust, and it's currently in existence. Was created on 8/14. Grantor is Brandon Joe Williams. Acting trustees are Joe Johnson and Bob Bobson. What are some of the powers? It's irrevocable. The signatures of all the trustees is required to exercise the powers. The trust identification number, right? This would be the EIN. Once you get that EIN from the IRS, they're going to need that to open the account, right? Typically, a certificate of trust is used to open bank accounts, but you can use it for any sort of contracting at all with anyone. We have here title to trust assets shall be taken using. So like if you write a check or something like that, what's the check going to be going to? I'm going to change this A and as to a lowercase, but this is the name that you'd put on the check. That's what they're saying there. And then just saying the hereby declare that the trust has not been revoked, modified, or amended in any way which would cause representations herein to be incorrect. Trust is non-statutory. You can look up what that means, statutory versus non-statutory. And then it's foreign-born trust that has been naturalized into state of California for the purposes of getting a bank account opened. So I added this in because Chase Bank will not allow you to open up a trust unless the trust has been basically naturalized into one of the 50 corporate states. They wouldn't even let me do American Samoa or anything. So this is just kind of a tester that I'm doing. Some banks are different. Some banks don't require this line. So you can actually remove number 11 and you can actually test it out and see if they'll take it. They told me it's not naturalized into one of the 50 states, and we need it to be naturalized in one of the 50 states. And then I just added point number 11 to naturalize it. If you don't like that, you don't want to do that, then find another bank that won't make you do that. I'm trying to open up accounts at literally every bank because I'm trying to just learn. So I have connections into all sorts of banking relationships and all sorts of banks, and it's kind of a slow process, but I'm trying to open up all sorts of shit all over the place and just study everything and just talk to people and talk to bankers and talk to whoever I can to try to learn more as we go. And then we have trustee 1 signs here. You don't notarize this unless they ask you to, but I don't notarize these and I get accounts open. And then you have trustee number 2, right? Obviously, if you just have one trustee, it would just be one name here, one name here, one name here, and then one name here. And then in the trust indenture itself, it would just have the one name. You can name it whatever you want. You can name it Brandon Joe Williams Trust in all capital letters. You can name it whatever you want. So that's the basic gist of a trust. It's very, very simple. People make it out to be very, very complicated. It doesn't need to be complicated at all. It's actually quite simple, right? So you've heard this term Sesta KV trust, right? So it's a type of trust. And I don't know, a lot of people say that the all caps name, what is it, right? Is it an estate? Is it a trust? Is it a corporation? Is it a partnership? Is it an association? Is it a company? All the different definitions of the word person, right? I don't know. It could be all of those things, right? And that's why I use the term ens legis. I don't have evidence showing you that the all caps name is one of those things. As far as I can tell from all the research I've done, it's kind of all of those things. Or there could even be more than one for all those things, and it's all different, all caps names that are all spelled the same. I don't know. So I just call it an ens legis because I know it's an ens legis. I know the all caps name is an ens legis. I just don't know like what kind. I don't know some of the information that people assume. So you're going to see a lot of confusing information, and the Sesta KV Trust, and the estate, the all cap, the dead estate. You're going to see a lot of things, and I just don't know. I don't know. To me, it's kind of like all the above, and it operates in different ways or something. I don't really know, but it's good to learn all of it. So Sesta KV Trust is a person who is entitled to the benefits of a trust that has been established for their benefit, right? So Sesta K means, you're the beneficiary, right? And you can look this up more, and you say to me, Brandon, what is the all caps name? Is it a Sesta K? Is it a state? Is it, what is it, right? Sesta KV is French for he who lives. It is a legal term for an individual who is the beneficiary of a trust or an insurance policy with rights to property and the income and profits that the property provides. So this is pretty interesting. For example, if you look at a certificate of title, we're going to go over this more later, but we can go ahead and go into this a little bit now. If you look at a certificate of title for let's see if I can find a bigger photo here. If you look at the certificate of title, I'm going to pause the video for a minute while I look for this. Here we go. So you have State of California, which is a corporation that's located either in the District of Columbia or it's a federal zone that's outside of the District of Columbia. I haven't really talked about that too much, but it's just kind of a brand new thing on my radar. It's either, because if you look it up on Dun and Bradstreet, it says that it's in Sacramento. So by saying you're a resident of State of California, it could mean that you're resident in a federal government zone, which is located in Sacramento, California. But to make it simpler, it's really just because even if that was true, it would still be operating as though it was in the District of Columbia, even though it's not. So it doesn't really matter. Either way, it's a corporation located in the District of Columbia. Okay, and then certificate of title. Certificate means evidence that something exists someplace else. So this whole document is evidence that something exists someplace else. And the legal term to describe what that means is the word abstract. It's an abstract. It's not an actual title. It's a certificate of title. People think it's like, I have the title. You do not have the title. You hand me one of these, I'm walking away. This is not the title to the vehicle. It's an abstract to the title. It's an illusionary connectivity piece to the title. It's not the title. Okay. So if you look here, you have the term registered owner, right? And you say to yourself, oh yeah, registered owner. Yeah, I'm the owner. Well, if you look up the term registered owner, legal definition, right? You're going to see here, let's see if it's, so what's so funny is recently this Black's Law Dictionary website got shut down, which is hilarious. As soon as my shit starts blowing up, they shut it down, but you still see a lot of the definitions here saved in the cache or whatever of Google or whatever it is, right? So registered owner, owner whose name is recorded in a security issuer's registrars as the security's owner and is entitled to receive dividend or interest and principal payouts, right? So it's somebody who's registered on a security, right? A certificate of title shows security interest. It's not an actual title. It's actually, like I said, it's an abstract. It's a security abstract of the actual title. So you think you know what this means, registered owner. What it means is the individual or trust or estate or partnership or whatever, because the word person, of which is allowed to have like beneficial usage of this vehicle, but does not have complete ownership of the vehicle like what you think. Like the definition of owner of what you think it means It's not what they're saying here. They're saying that you basically, registered owner is the person whose name is listed on there as the person who can use it or have beneficial usage of it or receive dividend and interest payments, right? So if we go back to Sesta KV, right, an individual who is the beneficiary or a trust or insurance policy with rights to property and the income and profits that the property provides, right? So, and that's also why your name is in all caps on the document, right? They're referring to the ens legis. So they're saying that the ens legis named John Smith, of which is a resident of Torrance, California, which is in the District of Columbia, has a beneficial interest in this vehicle, of which actually the state of California is the owner. So I know it's very complicated, but this is the trick. Signature of registered owner. So when you sign this certificate of title, you're signing as the authorized representative on behalf of the ens legis called John Smith. John Smith is the registered owner. So I know it's very, very complicated, but the reason why that is because a motor vehicle is a profession. A motor vehicle is a vehicle engaged in a commercial activity, transporting people and property for compensation, right? And I can show you a little bit about that here. And I know a lot of the naysayers are going to say, in this chapter is only how this applies. Well, yeah, but if you keep digging, you're going to find a lot of the same stuff. And I like how clear this definition is. The term motor vehicle means every description of carriage or other contrivance propelled or drawn by mechanical power and used for commercial purposes on the highways in the transportation of passengers and property or cargo. I think I showed you the definition of driver from Title 49. It's 49 CFR 390.5T, I believe it is. You'll see it on there. I think I showed you that before. And then you have used for commercial purposes, has a special definition. Means the carriage of persons or property for any fee, rate, charge, or other consideration, or directly or indirectly in connection with any business or other undertaking intended for profit. So what they're saying ultimately in this certificate of title, right? Because I'm explaining all this because we have this Sesta K trust, right? So this is essentially a Sesta K trust. What we have is the original title, which is called the MSO or MCO of a vehicle. This is what they look like, right? This is the actual title of the vehicle. Let me see if I can find a photo for you really quickly. Sample. Let's see if that works, right? Okay. Let's see if I'm going to pause the video if I can't find one. And let's pause the video for a moment. Okay, so I couldn't quickly find a photo. I'm not going to keep looking, but you can look on here. This is what the actual title looks like. It's going to have a lot of the same information. It looks almost the same as the title, the certificate of title. They did that on purpose to confuse people. So the certificate of origin for a vehicle, this is the actual birth certificate, the actual real title. This has to be sent in, and again, I'm going to go over a lot of this in more detail in the cars section, but I'm just explaining how all this works so you can understand the Sesta K trust. So this gets sent in to the DMV, and I'll show you all the references on that, and we'll do a deep dive on that later. But basically what you're doing is you're giving up the actual ownership of the vehicle in exchange to use the vehicle as a commercial activity. And then you become the all caps name, which is the Sesta KV. The beneficiary is the all caps name, the ens legis, has the beneficial ownership of the profit of that activity. Rights to property and the income and profits that the property provides, right? So the term registered owner means who's the person who's going to be getting paid the profits of this commercial activity. And the Sesta KV trust, the all caps ens legis, is listed as that, and then you are the agent on behalf of that ens legis. And this is why I always laugh, because money and financials and citizenship and nationality is actually a lot simpler than cars. I don't know what it is about cars and all this stuff, but the DMV and cars and all this stuff is so, it's such a complicated web of destruction, dude. Oh my God. We're going to break it all down. Don't worry. But I will assure you the cars and the driving part of this is definitely going to be the more complicated part. I'm going to pause the video for a moment. So I want to show you the definition of the word owner, right? The person in whom is vested the ownership, dominion, or title of property, right? So we have a bunch of different words here. We have ownership and we have dominion, right? So he who has dominion of a thing, real or personal, has which he has a right to enjoy and do with as he pleases, even to spoil or destroy it, as far as the law permits, right? But the thing is that when you send it in the DMV, you're not the full owner. You just have the rights to the benefit of the profit of the commercial activity. That's why you're listed as the registered owner, right? Let's see here. Right. Anyways, so owner means a lot of different things. It could mean the definition of, let's see here. So we start getting into things like equitable owner, one who is recognized in equity as the owner of property because the real and beneficial use and title belongs to him, although the bare legal title is vested in another, such as a trustee for his benefit, right? So it'd be sort of like, in that situation, you could look at the DMV as sort of like the trustee, right? The trustee is the one who has control over all the rules and how things are going to go down. And that's why the police are essentially like, it's kind of crazy to even say it. The police are basically like a private security force to help the trustee, called the DMV, administer the assets of the corporation called State of California. And I know that's very confusing. We're going to continue to break that down later, and we're going to go into a deep dive on this later, but I'm just trying to show you we have general and beneficial owner. General owner, qualified ownership, right? So keep in mind there's different types of owner. Owner doesn't just mean one thing. There's a whole bunch of different types of owner, legal owner, part owner, right? So they use the term owner and you get all excited. You're like, oh yeah, I'm the owner. No, registered owner just means you don't have full dominion. You're just the beneficiary. A trustee is the one who would really be the one to make the decisions, or the executor would be the one to really make the decisions, right? You are neither of those things. You're just you've voluntarily given away the asset of the vehicle, which is the res of the trust, into this nightmare. Okay, and you're living inside of this nightmare essentially, right? And I'm going to pause the video for a moment and find another word to show you. So we saw the term dominion used in there, right? Which is a pretty cool word. Ownership or right to property, or perfect or complete property or ownership. Title to an article of property which arises from the power of disposition and the right of claiming it. Sovereignty or lordship. So, in my opinion, you wouldn't say I own the vehicle. You definitely wouldn't say I'm a registered owner. You would say I have absolute, unconditional, unqualified dominion over the automobile. The word motor vehicle, if you type in automobile, I think I might have shown you this a little bit earlier, but we can look at it again. Automobile definition, California. If we look at vehicle definitions, an automobile is a passenger vehicle that does not transport persons for hire, and then a commercial vehicle is a vehicle which is used or maintained for the transportation of persons for hire, compensation, or profit, or designed, use, or maintained primarily in the transportation of property, right? This one is a motor vehicle, which is why you're going to the Department of Motor Vehicles. This one here is not a motor vehicle, it's an automobile. It's two entirely different terms, right? And I know you guys have heard a lot about this whole driving versus traveling thing. I don't use that terminology. I've never really seen the definition of traveling being clear. But driving is very clear. And I just say I'm not driving. And they say, what are you doing? I don't know. I'm not driving. That I know. I know I'm not driving. Traveling rather than driving, I don't know. Maybe I am. I don't know. I just know I'm not driving. Well, what are you doing? Well, that's for you to figure out. I don't know. I have no idea. Well, you trying to have me do your job for you? I don't know. You figure it out. Police officer or whatever. It's not my job to figure out what you think I'm doing within your terminology. You say I'm doing this thing called driving. I know I ain't doing that thing called driving. So whatever you think I could be doing or whatever, I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. I don't give a fuck. All I know is your concern is whether or not I'm driving. I ain't driving. So why are we talking? I do it a little differently. I don't do the traveling thing because I haven't seen enough about the whole traveling thing to really make a decision, right? But so we see here this STKV, right? You're the beneficiary, right? And that's why it's registered owner. Registered owner is a STKV. This is a trust. State of California is the trustee. Me as the man, Brandon Joe Williams, is essentially the grantor. I'm the one who sent all this shit in. I'm the one who filled out all the applications. I'm the one who paid for it. So I'm the grantor of my own prison cell. I was the one who created this whole situation by going to the DMV. State of California became the trustee, and then the ens legis, Brandon Joe Williams in all caps, became the STKV or registered owner. And this is a trust. You are looking at a trust. There has to be an asset in order for there to be a trust. If there's no asset, there's no trust. What is the res of the trust? And you can ask that anytime you're confused or anytime you're in any sort of legal situation or anytime you're in any sort of courtroom or, what is the res of the trust? If you don't know the res of the trust, and then you ask them who's the trustee and who's the beneficiary and who's the executor, right? In this situation, you as the man who originated this would be the grantor or executor or settler, the one who created it. And then that's why you're in this situation and you're fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting, and they don't all they're doing, it's very fucked up to say it, but all the court is doing is following the rules of what the executor laid out the trust was going to be. You are the executor. You filled out all the original documentation and you paid to open up this trust. All the court is doing is following your original directions. Now, a good question would be, is this trust revocable or irrevocable? I sent all my stuff in and had it all destroyed. I sent in my driver's license, had all that destroyed. We're going to go into that all later when we get into the cars section of the course. So as far as I'm concerned, it's revocable, and also, they can't, slavery. You start getting into peonage from Title 42, 42 USC 1994, peonage abolished, right? We're going to be getting into how to use some of these statutes and stuff. We have Title 18, slavery, enticement into slavery, right? So everything in Title 18 is only enforceable by the Department of Justice or the state prosecutor. You can't use these in a civil court by yourself. It's something I had to learn the hard way by actually doing it, right? I think I talked about that a little bit on a previous court video. But when you start getting into finding some of the cool stuff that you can use outside of Title 18, like this one is usable, Title 42, peonage, right? We start getting into those kind of things. I'm going to show you some more stuff later as we get into the end, near the enforcement arm of all of this. How do you enforce all these things, right? But I'm just showing you all this because we literally have a SESTA KV trust right here. on your certificate of title. That is a CKV trust, right? So you say to yourself, is that all caps name a CKV trust? In relationship to this particular document, it is, but it could be more of an estate someplace else or more of a corporation someplace else. I don't really know. I just know it's an ens legis. It's a creature of the law, right? So we'll get into that more and more and more as we go forward. And I'm going to pause the video for a second and review my notes and see if there's anything else I wanted to cover on this particular activity, right? As you're starting to see, an individual by themselves, it's complicated because they want to make everything into a group. They want to make everything a group, right? And that's why a Title 8 organization or a trust is smart, because you can name the trust Brandon Joe Williams in all caps, and then now you can name the Title 8 organization Brandon Joe Williams in all caps. And now, every time you see Brandon Joe Williams in all caps, it's like, well, are you talking about the ens legis that you guys made, the birth certificate? Are you guys talking about the Title 8? Are you guys talking about the trust? So what's funny is when you start to understand all this stuff, they confuse you with all this shit. But you can just start creating all sorts of stuff and putting names on stuff and going fucking absolutely ape shit. And you can create an entire web of complex structure. And now you can confuse the shit out of them 10 times more than they can confuse the shit out of you, because they don't understand a lot of this in this sort of depth. You're not going to find, the judges might, but the bar cards and the lawyers definitely won't. So you can create 150 trusts and 150 Title 8 organizations and name all of them and get different EIN numbers for all of them. And now when you go into court, you just constantly ask, who are you talking about? And that's, you could just destroy the whole goddamn system doing something like that. They confuse you doing the same shit. A lot of the stuff that I do and a lot of the stuff in like the novations and all the stuff that I'm teaching you and all the stuff that I do is literally the same shit that they do to us. Like, you guys think that this is the craziest shit ever. It's the exact same shit they do to us, just turned and just done on them. Same thing. And the beauty of doing that, if I come back to me, because I'm just talking here, if you the beauty of doing that is they can't fight against it. They can't complain, because if they say, oh, you can't do that, and it's like, well, wait a second, that's what you do. And they go, oh shit. Like how they can't defend against it when you use exactly what they do on them. They can't defend against it, because if they do, and then it creates case law, the whole system crumbles down, because everything that they're doing, if they say you can't do it and it becomes case law, now they can't do it. So it's an interesting situation. You can do all the stuff that they do on them, and it's complete immunity. They can't do anything to you, because if they do something to you, they destroy themselves in the process. It's a beautiful tactic that I've sort of developed, right? So asking a lot of questions. Why do you do it this way? And why do you do it that way? And why did you put my name here like this? And why did you, and the more you learn, the more you can do the same shit they're doing on them or on other people, and then you're home free, as far as I'm concerned, right? Bank accounts, how to operate using a trust. You're just it's all the same thing. You're signing on behalf of the trust, right? So let's look up authorized signature, I think it is. Authorized. I mean, you guys are just going to start seeing this everywhere now. Everything is not what you think it means. Everything. So you see authorized signature. You see this on everything. You see it on applications. You see it on bank. When you're opening up a bank account, you're going to see authorized signature, authorized signature, authorized signature. Hell, I wouldn't even be surprised. Checkbook. Let me see here. What do we got? Checkbook sign line. Checkbook sign line says authorized signature, right? This is another big mind fuck. I knew this, but it's just kind of coming together a little bit better for me now all of a sudden. So if you look on a checkbook, you'll see the little MP. Let me show you guys. It's so fucking funny, right? So you see this little MP. Let me see if I can't zoom in any farther. So if you look at on any check, if you pull out some of your checkbooks or order some checks or look up your parents' checks, because a lot of young people don't use checks anymore. If you look at this line here, MP right next to the line, that stands for microprint. And what they have written here along this line is authorized signature, authorized signature, authorized signature, authorized signature, all the way across the line over and over and over again, right? Authorized signature is a phrase that is often printed in microprint on the signature line of a check. And then you look up what is authorized signature. It's a authorized signature is on behalf of the person who has the right to sign documents on behalf of an organization. So they're literally telling you that you are signing on behalf of an ens legis. You are literally signing on behalf of an ens legis. Every single check you've ever signed, you're signing on behalf of an ens legis, on behalf of an organization, which is a creature of the law, right? So you don't realize it, but you are signing. You're never signing yourself. You're always signing on behalf of an ens legis. So all I'm teaching you is what you've already been doing your entire life, and you just didn't know it. Now you know it. Now you know that you are the agent on behalf of an organization, and you are the authorized signer on behalf of that organization. That organization is an ens legis. And that ens legis can be moved around by simply conferring the nationality of a state upon the ens legis after birth by any means whatsoever. So you're starting to see a little bit more of how this all. I know it's kind of shocking, and that actually kind of even shocked me a little bit. I mean, I knew this, but teaching it and putting it together like this in a brand new way, it's very, very interesting. So you're going to be operating the trust the same way as how you operate your ens legis. You just didn't know it. You thought every time you signed Brandon Joe Williams, you were saying that it was you. It's not. You're on behalf of an organization. You're an authorized signer, right? So you've been doing that your whole life, and you just didn't know it. So you're going to be doing the same fucking thing now, but on behalf of a trust organization. And you're going to be the authorized signer on behalf of the trust, the ens legis, right? Trust is an ens legis. It's a creature of the law, right? So Title 8 organization is also an ens legis. And the all caps name that was created when your birth certificate was processed by the local health officer, that's also an ens legis. Is it in the state? Is it this? Is it that? I don't know. It kind of operates as all the above. I don't have additional information for you. People say, oh, it's a Sestig AV trust. Maybe it is. Maybe part of it is, or maybe with the Social Security Administration it is, or I don't know. If you look up old Social Security cards, let me see if I can find one. I'm just going to go over this later with you, but if you look up old Social Security cards with account number on them, if you look up Social Security cards, it says here between 37 and 38, which is just 2 years after the act was created, right? So 1936, you can see here. Okay, let's not go through all that. So you can see here back in 36, so 35 is when the Social Security Act was passed. And then 36 and 37 and 35, it said Social Security Act account number. So why is it they always ask for your account number, Social Security account number, right? Account number to who or to what, right? It's to the ens legis. Account number for what? You're the authorized signer on behalf of the ens legis, and the ens legis is the one that has the account number. The Social Security number is not yours. It's the ens legis's, right? Because the ens legis is a person, remember? Anyways, here we go. I wanted to go over one more thing with you guys. A private membership association, right? I'm not even going to show you anything on this. It's super easy. A private membership association is super easy. You just have like little membership fees, and you just put in the contract saying that this is like a totally separate thing. We have our own body of law, and you can call it the Starbucks Code. And people pay $1 of every single transaction goes into membership costs for a lifetime membership, or you could have a monthly membership or yearly membership, and you just have them sign a little something. It could be even digitally sent to them, texted to them, and they just sign it on digit document, whatever the fuck it is. And it just says you agree that, we're not in these other bodies of law and we have our own thing going on, and you're paying to become a member of a private organization that's not statutory and it's not incorporated into any external body of law at all, and it's operated through the nation of the Amnesty Coalition or some other nation or whatever. It's just a contract. I mean, a trust is just a contract. A private membership association is just a contract. These are all just contracts, and you can write them however you want. You can have just one sentence. You agree that $1 of your transaction goes towards a membership in a private membership association of which is not involved in public office or incorporated in any way. I don't know, whatever. That could be your whole trust, your whole contract, your whole PMA. It doesn't need to be anything complicated. You don't need to go and pay some guy on the internet to structure all this for you. They try to make it seem very complicated because they need to sell PMAs. And don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with people sell services. You sell goods, sell services. If you want help, and the guy's like upfront with you and clear on the because again, fraud can be through omission or commission. So for me to make it seem like a PMA is extremely complicated in order to sell you my services, as far as I'm concerned, that would be fraud by commission, right? If I were to sell you litigation services and start going after banks, and I made it like super simple, you don't need to do anything, bro, like don't worry, it's all good, that would be fraud by omission, because I should be telling you that you're literally going off to war for 2 years, and you're going to go through the most emotionally difficult yet spiritually enhancing thing you've probably ever done in your entire life. And it's going to be absolute hell, and you're going to grow more than you've ever grown in your entire life in the shortest period ever. That would be perfect. That wouldn't be commission or omission. And if I were to say, oh, if you litigate, you're never going to win and you're going to lose, and the FBI is going to show up and murder you instantaneously for absolutely no reason, that would be fraud by commission, by telling you too much, way over in the lies section, right? So when people tell you that these things are so complex and they go on and on and on for 400 pages and all this kind of stuff, they may have good intentions, but that would be fraud by omission or fraud by commission. I apologize, right? This stuff is pretty simple. A Title 8 organization is the easiest of all choices. It's literally instant. I just say we have one, and then boom, we have one. In fact, you don't even need to say you have it, and you have it. I mean, you literally don't do anything. You could be unconscious. You could be in a coma, and you have a Title 8 organization. So that's as easy as it gets, literally easier than smoking a cigarette. It's as easy as sipping on whiskey. I mean, it's even easier than sipping on whiskey. Sipping on whiskey requires you to, there's all these synapses and all this energy that has to get, the carbon oxygen engine has to create all this energy, and then the synapses have to come down and move this 45 or 60 pound meat object over to this glass, and then it has to lift this glass, and your mind has to go through all this craziness to figure out how much energy and force do you have to use to pick this thing up and then lift it all the way over to the over here, and then you have to open up this thing called a mouth and pour this thing into it and then swallow, and then it goes down and it maybe burns a little. Oh my God, if you really break down how much totally insane things occur on something as simple as just taking a shot of whiskey, my God, it's unbelievable. So if you compare that to a Title 8 organization, which is where I could literally just smash my head through this table and knock myself out, and the next person that comes in here and tries to help me, technically speaking, we have a Title 8 organization, and I'm not even conscious. It doesn't get any easier than a Title 8 organization. PMA, simple little contract, simple little thing. You know, if you had like a coffee shop, you could even have like a little computer monitor thing. And when they endorsed the negotiable instrument, which we'll get into later, when they endorse a credit card transaction, you could even have like a little blurb there, and it'll have like the like on Square, it'll have like a little $1 charge, and it'll say, and then it'll be a line item, and it'll just say private membership association fee line, and then it'll just say, you know, blah, 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 blah. But you'd probably need a little bit of information from them in order to do that. Maybe get like a little email list, send them some cool stuff, give them something useful. If you're going to create a PMA, it really should be a membership association, right? You can have little pins or, you know, whatever. It'd be, you know, ideally you wouldn't just do it kind of half-assed. You would actually go through and do all the, actually, if you're going to have a PMA kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Have an actual private membership association or organization, right? And then if you're going to have a trust, there has to be a res, there has to be actual asset that's in the trust, and then you have to, the grantor writes the laws, and the laws are how the trustee is going to administer the assets for the benefit of the beneficiary. So it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more structured. Trusts are going to be the easiest thing to interface into governments, banks. PMAs and Title VIII organizations are really easy on the front end, but then on the back end, interfacing it with other organizations and societies and nations and corporations, it might be more difficult. Opening up a bank account might be a little bit more difficult. You go in there and you have like nothing. You have like no documents. You have nothing. Could you write up a certificate of Title VIII organization? That's probably what I would do. That's the direction I'm going to go in testing this to try to see what I can and can't pull off in terms of getting this open. I still think a Title VIII organization is one of the best choices. It's a really cool choice, and it's the easiest thing in the world, and you can do it instantly. So get an EIN and you can start popping. You know, getting a bank account, you might need to go to a dozen banks. You know, dress up nice, be really kind, and make them laugh, and look at the computer and, you know, what's this box? Oh, I'm stuck on this box, and blah, 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 and see if they'll let you kind of navigate through the process together. That's what I would do, you know. So yeah, there you go. I think that's everything I wanted to cover on this. You will get special checks for your trust accounts, and it'll say, you know, cool as a cucumber trust, and then it'll say trustee Brandon Joe Williams. It'll have your name in all caps on there. And you just authorize signature on behalf of the trust, on behalf of the organization. You're doing it already. You've been doing it your whole life. Now at least you know you're doing it, and now you're the one in control as to how that's going to work, and you're the one who decides how that's going to work, how you're going to sign. We're going to get into how to sign later. I know I went into without prejudice. We're going to get into other ways to sign in the next video, number 5. So I'll just save that for that, and we'll just end that here. So, okay, guys. See you later.